feel comfortable to start? Okay, well, hi, Brooke.
Hi, Alexa.
How are you today?
I'm good.
Thank you so much for joining us on Out of Town.
I love that.
Yes.
I'm so happy to be here.
Today we're here with Brooke Kinder, travel nurse, Beyoncé aficionado,
Yes.
native New Yorker.
That's going to go on the gravestone. Something about Beyonce is going to go on my tombstone or something.
Oh, has to.
Yeah.
Absolutely has to. There's no other option. Also someone who absolutely loves to travel. I'm really excited to talk to you a little bit about that.
I am too. I met Alexa through our mutual friend Grace, and the one thing she always talked about was your travel, and I'm like, I got to meet her.
I can't believe we just met a couple months ago. It was always, oh, you're going to love Brooke. You guys will have so much to talk about.
Yeah.
And here we are. You are from New York. So where in the city did you grow up?
In Yorkville. It's like a part of the Upper East Side, in the same building my mom lives in since she was like 25 years old. She's always saying it. She's like, I'm going to die in this building. I'm going to die on this block. She works the restaurants on that block.
Do you feel really still connected to New York and Manhattan?
New York is my personality. I'm okay to say that. I'm so lucky. Like when I go home, I'm going to New York City.
Your home is like a movie set.
I have a community. I have neighbors.
So even though you grew up in New York City, it still felt like a small, close-knit community.
I think that's what Yorkville was. And people like hear Upper East Side and they only think west of Lexington Avenue. And I'm like, nah. I grew up super humble. We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, 5 of us. Always had a bed in my living room. When I found out people didn't have beds in their living room, I would go to like people's like beautiful Park Avenue apartments, Madison Avenue apartments. I was just like, oh shit, you have your own room?
Yeah.
2 bathrooms? 2 bathrooms blows my mind. If 2 people can use a bathroom at the same time, I think that's incredible.
I can relate to you in the way that I hate telling people that I'm from East Hampton.
Correct.
It's so much more down to earth and small town. People think of it as this glamorized version, which I think is so similar to Upper East Side.
Totally.
Like, people think you're like Gossip Girl.
And there's nothing against that.
No, because that's from someone else's reality.
Correct. Yeah.
But I think people forget that there's many different realities.
A lot of people in between.
Did you guys do any family trips?
No, so travel was never a part of my life. My mom's best friend, who I call my Uncle Brucey, he was like the closest thing to a dad I ever had. He lived in New York, and then probably when I was like 6 years old or so, he got a condo in Florida. So then he decided that he would do like 6 months in New York and 6 months in Florida. He also just so happened to be there usually during the summers, which I know sounds fucked up. So to help my mom during the summer months, one of us would go for a month or like 3 weeks. Back in the day, you could put these kids on planes and not fucking worry about it. So someone would drop us at a gate, flight attendant would take us, seat us in row 1 or 2, and then my uncle would be waiting for us. And like that was like, to me, I was like, oh my God, I'm in Fort Lauderdale. Like I'm in Florida. Like, what'd you do this summer? I went to Florida. Honestly, I spent a lot of my time envying kids that fucking traveled. Like if I saw bitches come back with braids and a tan, and like they went to Mexico during spring break, like I'd be like, Mom, like this is fucking crazy. And she was like, tough shit, bitch. Like I would like to be there too.
So the first time you went on a plane was...
I mean, I was probably like 8 years old.
But you were by yourself?
By myself. I thought everybody just got handed off at the gate.
That is completely opposite from most a child's experience.
Nobody gave a shit where I was. Nobody at Terminal 3 LaGuardia cared about Brooke Kinder.
You thought to yourself, okay, yeah, whatever. You were
I had a bag of snacks. That was it. There were no TVs on flights, so I would like talk to stewardess. Yeah.
I have to say, one of the first things I noticed about you is your charisma.
Okay.
You are so charismatic, and
thank you.
I'm sure these flight attendants, all these people were just drawn to you. Who is this amazing little girl? Can I just hang out with her the entire flight?
Gotta give that to my uncle. My uncle was such an individual. My mom is very do things by the book, and my uncle was like, books. We make the rules, honey.
When you were envious of the other kids that were going on trips and stuff, did you think, oh, I'm gonna do that one day? Was that the seed that grew into this whole travel lifestyle that you live?
Yeah, it was like, how do I get to that? And then what really fucked me up though, watching Laguna Beach and seeing 18-year-olds go to Cabo all the time by themselves. Understandably, it was a 45-minute flight. It was like us going to Rochester. But what?
Not the same.
Like, what? Make it make sense.
Yeah.
That really blew my mind. So I was like, oh, I'm going to be Lauren Conrad in the sense that I'm going to I'm going to Cabo. I'm going to make that.
Expanded for you. You were like, people do that? I'm going to do that.
1,000%.
Your home is a destination for people all around the world. When did that realization hit for you?
Probably when I was starting to look at colleges. I kind of at that point was like this 16, 17-year-old, like really street smart kid, knew how to take care of ourselves. We always had jobs. She always taught us that if you need it, you got to go get it yourself. So we were very much just like out about in these streets, girl. So when I was looking to go to college, at that point, I was like, what would a formal education 4 years away at a state school do for me? Because all I'm seeing is all these people that want to come here. I originally went to St. John's in Queens. And to me, going to Jamaica was like, oh my fucking God.
What?
I lasted a whole semester. So they put me in like a 7 a.m. math class.
That's not fair.
That's not fair at all.
Because you're coming from
That's fucking
Upper East Side,
rude.
right?
Doesn't matter if I'm coming from campus. I dropped out of college March 23rd of the spring semester of the, you know.
Good date.
Yeah, I called my mom and she was like, you better fucking work 40 hours a week. And I did. I like was like working at like Crumbs Cupcakes. I was like, you know, on my way to assistant store manager. And then I would nanny or babysit, whatever. So you'd see like families going on trips and I'd be like, damn, okay, like a whole family's going on a trip right now.
What was the first trip that you went on?
Like outside of Florida and stuff.
Yeah. What was your first time out of the country?
I was a nanny. So I worked for this family. I loved them. I worked at the ice cream store below their building. That's how I met them. And then I would nanny every weekend, you know, or babysit. At work one day, and the dad comes downstairs and he's like, you got a passport? And I'm like, no. He's like, could you get a passport? And I'm like, what's going on, Bobby? And he's like, we got to go to Italy. Would you go to Italy with us? Again, I'm standing behind a chocolate. You know, I've got like a scooper in my hand. What the fuck is going on? I'm like, yeah, I would go to Italy, Bobby. So I call my mom and I'm like, Ma, Bobby and Jen want to like take me to Italy. And she's like, well, go, because I'm not going to take you. And I was like, all right. I called Bobby back. I'm like, my mom says I can go to Italy, Bobby. August, I went to Italy for the first time as a nanny. Let me tell you. And this fucked me up too, in the sense that, one, I was living Lizzie McGuire dreams, right? Also, it was all expenses paid, and I was getting paid. We stayed in like a fucking 2-villa compound on like this gorgeous mountainside, okay? And this whole family is just like together, and I was like, holy shit, I've never had this. Can't imagine my family getting on planes like this. I was just like, wow, that really like got me. I was like, holy shit, I want this.
Was that moment when you think you switched on the light bulb of, okay, travel is now a priority for me?
But it was actually, so my sister passed away like 8 years ago. One of the things when I was going through all of her belongings afterwards was I found this like very small composition notebook, basically an entire itinerary to the way she would want to travel the world. So I remember running to my mom and I'm like, we've got to do this. It was the perspective that she never will, so I have to. That changed my entire life.
Oh, it lit a fire.
1,000%. I always have her prayer card with like her photo on it, like, everywhere I go. To this day, like one of my biggest accomplishments as a daughter was I paid off all my debt, and then I took my mom to Italy and Greece. My mom hadn't been to Greece since she was like 18 years old, and that's where we're
Greek,
from.
Right?
Yeah, it was just me and her. I wanted my brother to go, but he didn't want to go. He was, you know, it was like he had his reasons. I have no idea. And so it was just like me and my mom like bonding, and my mom never. Like, we never, like, had talks about, like, wanting to travel. Like, I always felt like, especially after my sister passed away, I always felt like a circle and a square family. Because my brother and my mom would just, like, call me crazy for, like, wanting to do all these things. Mm-hmm. And now, you know, you're looking at it, I'm like, okay, my mom probably never had these feelings because she never wanted to, like, get her hopes up. I think how lucky am I that I get to wake up every day. So why not wake up cool places? Material things are, like, cool, but I'd rather the memory.
Experiences over things always.
A couple months after, my mom's coworker was like, hey Karen, I like have a timeshare that I'm not going to be able to use this year. If you and Max and Brooke want to go away, you can use it.
Was that hard, having that first experience all together without your sister there?
Yeah, I mean, even when I travel now, I get extremely emotional, but it's also those moments that when I feel that, I think she's very much with me.
It became a part of you because you saw it was a huge part of her.
I've pushed myself to do things solely because I think she would have done it. And again, she can't do it. I'm like, I'll do it, girl. Eat what? I'll do it. Put what on my face? I'll do it. You know, jump out of an airplane? I'll do it.
Is there anything you won't do?
Eat bananas. I hate bananas. That's really what it is. I honestly don't know. I really enjoy challenging myself.
You would do anything once to try. You're down to try.
Yeah. If you try once and you hate it, fine.
I think that's such a great lesson. You have to push your boundary a little bit, go outside of your comfort zone to find out what you like. How do you know what you like without trying?
Bro, change is uncomfortable. These uncomfortable moments are when things are actually happening for me, or at least make me learn something, because just because something's challenging, the other side isn't necessarily beautiful. Like, again, losing my sister was probably the biggest challenge of my life. And now being on the other side of that, what are your hard no's? I'm like, what is a hard no? Jumping out of a building or something? If there's a thing to protect my booty when I fall, sure. Yeah. If there are people that are regulating it and like put a harness on me, sure.
You will go anywhere by yourself.
Yeah, I would love company, but I also now realize, like, well, I can't keep waiting for other people. If it's just meant for me, then it's just meant for me.
What was that first solo trip that you took? And I'm curious how you got the confidence to even go for it.
First trip I ever did by myself were like smaller, going to Miami by myself, little things like that. So I started like slowly testing myself. I perceived every nursing assignment that I was going to do as a trip. So the first time I ever really did anything major was leaving New York to go to Portland. It was turning 30 during a global pandemic, working a global pandemic as a nurse in New York City in the emergency room. Really changed my life.
When did you become a nurse?
I became a nurse when I was like 25, 26 years old.
What was interesting to you about that career path?
So I told y'all that I dropped out of college. My brother was like on his way to like incredibleness. I was at his high school graduation dinner, and I was telling I call him my uncle, but he's like technically a cousin. So I was like, oh, Pete, what I really wanted to do was go back to school, get like a chemistry degree and then like a PhD in chemistry. And I really wanted to work for Essie, and I wanted to develop nail polishes. And I just thought like that would be so cool. Yeah. And my uncle looked at me and he was like, no, bitch. No. He was like, Brooke, you're absolutely not getting a PhD in chemistry. He was like, you're going to come to me in 10 years and hate yourself. And he was a doctor. He was like a big surgeon. He was like, but you are a nurse. He was like, but just look it up. You're the person I would want at the bedside with me. And from that day, June 2011, I was like, I guess I'm going to be a nurse. I went back to school in the Bronx. I went to Hostess Community College in the Bronx. And then I went on to get a bachelor's degree at Hunter. So yeah, I was like kicking ass. So I ended up just going to Brooklyn, SUNY Downstate, humble beginnings. I became a nurse, and that was it. I knew that was going to help me unlock something.
It was the key to the life that you wanted to live.
Yeah. I can't explain to you, like, my whole life kind of flashed before me. I'm definitely the type that once I have an idea, I stick to it. The novella is in my head, okay? Like, I watched it. I saw myself getting out of the struggle, because the one thing, like, in my life that was always something that, like, had to happen was that I wasn't going to be my mom, in the sense that if a man ever left me with 3 kids, I wasn't going to have to work 3 jobs. I was going to be okay. I would have health insurance. I would have enough money to pay my bills. I would, I wanted, like, I envied kids so much whose, like, mom picked them up or dropped them off from school. I wanted, like, all these things that once the nursing popped in my head, I was like, oh, okay, like, this is going to be it, like, this is going to be my way out of this.
Yeah, it was like the key to access what you wanted.
My sister passed away the day I got into nursing school. Stop. Yeah. So like at that point, I was like overdrive. I was like, this is going to be my life. Like this has to be it. I did like an accelerated program, so it was only 14 months long. So
the end is in sight. That's intense, but when you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, I think
incredible.
That makes a huge difference.
Yes. No, major. And I will say, graduating nursing school, that's when like things started happening. So like that's when the next trip I went on was. So I was working full time in nursing school. I had like not a penny to my name. I like had my first big girl credit card, which some reason they gave me X amount of money on, and I was like, so I literally would try to never use it. A couple of the girlies were like, hey, we want to go to Oktoberfest, and I was like, I'm gonna go to Oktoberfest. How do I make this happen? And let me tell you, we got with this pandemic, because traveling prior to the pandemic was possible. It cost me like $190 to go to London, which is unheard of. My cell phone, I was a peasant, so I couldn't afford like the abroad thing. So I remember that was my first thing. So I have to find a Wi-Fi spot that I can like get directions and somehow get to London and somehow get to this Airbnb and meet my girlies. So I got there and I was like, wow, I was so proud of myself, And then I was like in London with my friends, and I was like, oh, this is how you do it. And then we like did our whole Oktoberfest in Berlin, and it was just like so cool, and like everything worked out. And my credit card was still maxed out at the end of the day, but I remember being like, that was 100% worth it. And then I remember like I remember getting yelled at because then I had to take my boards like as soon as I got home.
But you passed your boards.
Yeah, I passed my boards. I took it on October 13th. I'm like kind of superstitious, and I'm like, maybe this will benefit me if I take it on like Friday the 13th.
And then once you passed your boards, did you immediately get a travel nurse job?
No, you can't. You need experience to be a travel nurse. The whole reason that you're going to them is that like they don't need to train you, that they really just need to tell you like the code to the bathroom and where they keep supplies, and you can figure it out from there.
Was that always the goal, to become a travel nurse?
I really wanted to do it.
And why is that? Why was it opposed to just being a regular
nurse?
Yeah.
Why would you be regular when you can be spicy? And I loved being a staff nurse, and you can still vacation when you're a staff nurse, but it was like one of those places. I was working with like 30-year vets, 20-year vets, 15-year vets, and they were like, yeah, you know, like that first week in April is mine, and your seniority and all that stuff. And I was just like, okay. So my real goal at first was to just get experience. Like I was a brand new nurse. I knew nothing. Yes. I was working in a trauma center and an ER. Like I needed to learn. I moved to another hospital in Manhattan. I started working at MSK. And MSK was like the highest paying hospital at that point. So I got like a 20% raise, and it was just like not union. So I didn't have to worry about 17-year Patty getting her vacation before everybody else. And I started learning like, okay, you don't even have to use vacation days to go away. Like I could just work, thankfully, I could just work like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then the next week I can just work like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I didn't even use a vacation day. And now I'm off Thursday through Tuesday.
So you kind of played the system a bit there.
Yeah. So I still didn't feel confident to be a travel nurse yet. Then the pandemic happened, unfortunately, like a year and a half after that. And I mean, there was no place to be but New York. So.
You were an ER nurse during the pandemic. Let's just highlight that for a second. Like,
it was. That was crazy.
Thank you. Did that change you?
Yeah, girl. I was watching people die every day. Every day. What do people tell you when they're dying? The things they wish they had done. And let me tell you what was number one. Travel, bitch. No, everybody. I would be like, Mr. Smith said to go here before you die. Like we would be writing it down. It was one of those things that like I went into nurse medicine in general, like wanting my moment. I have friends who's like, you know, their moms worked the AIDS epidemic, 9/11, to be an ER nurse on 9/11. Holy shit, in New York City. So like I was always waiting for like this thing to happen, and like the pandemic happened, and I was like, this is my moment. I had literally gone to Paris like 2 months before the pandemic had happened. And I remember like here and there was like talk about it, but nobody was afraid. No one at the airport was like,
it felt far away.
Yeah. There were big ticket contracts going out during the pandemic. But my mom raised me to be a good girl. She really wanted me to get vested at MSK. So I needed like the 3 years, and I was almost there. So I got vested, and then as soon as like a week later, I put in my 2 weeks, and I was like, I'm out. But going back to being a New York City girly, I don't know how to drive.
Oh.
So these feet have gotten me places.
That limits you a bit.
Yeah, a lot of it. Nursing works that you get licensed by state. So obviously I have a New York State license. That was the first place I got. And then I got a Hawaii license. And I was like, this is the next place I'm going to go. Can't go to Hawaii if you don't drive. Let me tell you. So then I got a California license. I got a Portland, like an Oregon license.
Do you have to take a test for each one?
No, that you get like endorsed. Once you take the test one place, you just get endorsed. Okay. So I was like, all right, well, Portland is like a city. You know, it's cool, like the size of Manhattan. Yeah. They got like public transportation. I looked up like, you know, I was like, this, I guess, like I love Portlandia, you know? And again, this was something my sister would fucking do in a heartbeat. And
so you went to Portland.
So I went to Portland. I packed my bags March 3rd, baby. That was interesting. You know what was so cool was like, I mean, like to me, Central Park is like, you know, like Fort Tryon Park. I'm like, look at us in suburbia. You know? I'm like, Van Cortlandt touches Westchester. So I got to Portland, and I'm like looking out the window, and there's like Mount Hood outside my window. Yeah. Beautiful. And I'm like, holy shit. The world is so much bigger than New York. Yeah. Even though places are not New York, the world is so much bigger than it. And that's also what I had to keep reminding myself, because New York is such a personality trait for me, and people make it that for me also. Like the second people hear I'm from New York City or hear my voice, maybe I say something funny, that's it. That's all they care about. I really try to like let go of it and allow myself to experience the greatness in other places.
How do you go about that, to experience the greatness in other places? How do you kind of start that journey into exploring a new place to find what makes it special?
Being alone is something that I have to, and I still work on every single day. Loneliness is way more than a feeling. I started telling myself that I had to get really comfortable with myself, because if you're not comfortable with yourself, then you're fucked. Because if you don't like you, honey, let me tell you, right?
Follows you everywhere you go.
Yeah. So I started taking myself out to dinner. I started going to the movies by myself. I started like just kind of doing things. And I'm very much like a walker. I love walking. As I've gotten older, it's like definitely my form of therapy. I just put on leggings and sneakers and I just go until my heart tells me to stop. So like Portland, I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Okay, well, staying, right? When it came to finding a place in Portland, I was like, you know what? Let me not like 100% be on my own right now. So I stayed in like a really cool Airbnb that probably like 8 people stayed in also. Because I was like, okay, I can still have my room to myself. But then like cooking dinner, maybe there's people there. The guy that ran this place was so fucking cool, Evan. He told me things to do. I would obviously look up like where to go, where to eat. Portland is such a cool food scene. So like that was so easy. I was never hungry. But it's really like the meeting people aspect that is still to this day the most challenging.
How do you find your people in these places?
It's hard. It changes all the time.
It depends
so
on the place.
Yeah, Portland in particular. Evan was awesome. Evan would be like, do you want to get a drink? Okay. Like, do you want to go do something? And I'm like, okay. He was even like offering to teach me how to drive. I was like, am I going to change my life in Portland, Evan? Thankfully, I met like a couple of other people that were kind of doing the same thing in this house. Like one girl younger than I am. I think now she's like 25 or 26, but she was 23, had like a techie job, and would every 6 weeks change where she was doing her remote job. So I'm getting to know people that I work with. I mean, I'm very thankful that I get along with people. So
you're very personable.
You know, so I just am like, let's all hang. Some people are very set. They don't want new friends. They don't want whatever. And it's honestly, the pandemic fucked people up. I was like expecting this whole like everybody's gonna want to go hang out and do all these things, and people are now very much homebodies. People don't want to, you know, do whatever. So Portland was definitely a test for me. It was like learning how to like approach other people, Brooke. I would keep waiting for people to like text me to do something, and no, you know,
you had to make the first move.
I had to do it.
Initiative.
Yeah. So I was like,
that's
oh, okay.
a great life lesson.
Yeah.
If you want something, you have to go out
1,000%.
Yeah.
And what's the worst that's going to happen? Like, no.
Yeah.
I'm literally telling myself the same things I tell my 9-year-old niece. No. Yeah. Or like you send out a text and no one replies. Cool. On to the next. So then I came home for the summer though. I was like, there's nothing like a New York City summer. And then I got the itch again. So I really wanted to go to California. I finally like got my full California license. Knew I couldn't go to LA because I can't drive. Couldn't go to San Diego, can't drive. Still can't go to Hawaii. So I was like, okay, San Francisco. I hopped off the plane to SFO and that was it. I was in SF and that was like a whole new journey. Literally like landed at the airport. Grace like puts me and Erica in a group chat. And she's like, Brooke's in SF, like teach her SF things. And I'm like, okay. And then Erica's like, well, tonight's my husband's birthday party. I'm like, go to someone's birthday party the first day I get here?
That's such a great
like, this is aggressive.
Though.
Yeah.
But then you get to meet so many other people.
1,000%. And this was challenging.
Were you nervous?
Yes, 1,000%.
Okay.
1,000%.
I can't imagine you being nervous, but I understand.
I do and I don't have social anxiety, right? I do in the sense that like, are they gonna like me or you know, like dumb things. Yeah, so I go to this birthday party and I meet all these people and now I fucking always hang out with these people when I'm in SF. So California is the mecca for nurses. You get paid so well. There are laws about the job that you're allowed to do. In New York, I get slaughtered. In New York, I was a new grad and I had to take care of at least 10 patients by myself in the emergency room. Night shift was getting sometimes up to 16 patients at a time. Okay. This is dangerous shit. Okay. And it's not, and you're screaming at me about a blanket or a turkey sandwich or your grandma's not getting her medicine. Babe, I got 16 other people I got to give medicine to, and I'm prioritizing them in my head. You don't understand that. And I get that. But anyway, so New York was like really brutal. So I got to SF and I was like, this is incredible. I can't believe I'm getting paid this much. I'm doing a fraction of the job. It's not an easy job still. What's cool about travel nursing is that things change. So like East Coast, we got things that we deal with that they don't deal with necessarily in California.
Yeah.
Frostbite during the winter, or, you know, like the drugs that our addicts are doing, way different. We got crack and heroin out here. Out there they're doing meth and trank and all this other stuff. So it's like, it's really cool to see all these things change.
It's so cultural.
Yeah.
The problems that each
oh my
city
God
has.
Yeah.
So you're a travel nurse still
Travel nurse. It just transitioned. They have like all these different types of positions. They have full-time position, full-time staff positions, part-time staff positions, per diem positions, which most hospitals all over the place do. So when I got to my assignment, they were all like, that they liked me, that they liked how I worked, and they kept telling me that I should keep like apply to this per diem position. And I'm like, I'm not trying to stay here, guys. Like, this is not what's happening. Like, this is just a stop in the journey. So then my friend John is like, finish your assignment, let's go to Costa Rica, kind of figure things out. So I finished my assignment. I go to Costa Rica for like a couple weeks with John. I just told the recruiter, like, I'm not going to work from January blah 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 to blah blah blah, and you can make it on my contract that it starts on this day when I get back, and then it'll go until this day when I want to do this thing. And they were like, no problem. And they kept telling me, apply for this job, apply for the per diem. It doesn't open that very often. And I was meeting people at this hospital. And what got me was I would talk to Ross, and Ross is telling me like, yeah, Brooke, I literally just came back from Somalia. You know, he's a per diem nurse. He worked 19 shifts last month. That's full time, is 13 shifts a month. And then took 3 weeks off to go to Asia to do the Somalia. And then he came back, and I was just like, huh, okay.
So you thought that this per diem position might be conducive to the lifestyle that you were looking for?
1,000%. It's like, so thankful I was in San Francisco. You know, like, I think, again, getting out of my New York bubble.
SF is cool in the way that it's a gateway to other places in the area.
35 minutes from here, I can go to Bronxville. 35 minutes from San Francisco, I'm in Napa Valley.
Exactly. You can go to Yosemite. You can go to Lake Tahoe. You can go to the Redwood National Forest.
We did the Big Sur drive.
Exactly.
Like 2 days of my life. Yeah. And that's another thing. I'm like, oh my God, like Big Sur, I really want to do this so bad. And all I had to do was open my mouth to a coworker who her too wanted to do it. And she was like, babe, I'll drive us. Like, I'll drive us. Let's go for the weekend. You have the weekend off. I have the weekend off.
Has living in California made you want to learn how to drive at all?
Yeah. Let me tell you, I drove like 6 times so far. That's a lot for me.
That's good.
Literally the first time I sat behind the driver's seat was like last year.
What I'm really asking is
I need to do it. No, I need to do it.
Okay.
There's so many things I want to do that I literally can't do.
I have to say, I don't love to drive. I can drive, obviously. I
totally.
have to. But I went for the first time. I did a road trip by myself in southern Spain. I loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it. I was so afraid. I was so scared. Driving on those Spanish streets, I was like, fuck. Like,
yeah.
I might hit something. I did hit something. I scratched the rental car, but I didn't give a fuck. And
Sorry. Lo siento.
I did get the insurance, so
totally.
Whatever. It was for a good reason. But the most magical place that I stayed was in the middle of the mountains in this national park. Only accessible if you can drive. It was on this farm where there's horses and sheep and river streams just flowing. And I thought, I am so grateful that I can drive to get here.
Yes.
I was grateful that I was brave enough to actually like do it too, because not everybody would. But it really opens up a whole different type of trip and traveling when you have that ability.
Some of the best trips I've gone on are the ones where we land and go straight to rental center. Like, we're not getting a taxi to the same hotel everybody else is going to.
Exactly. It was such a different experience than I've seen.
Yeah.
The first time you left the country, you went to Italy. Fast forward, not even 10 years, you had already been to Paris. You took your mom on a trip. You went to Oktoberfest. You kind of
was catching up.
Yeah, you went from like 0 to 100. So
I learned what like healing your inner child was. It's like, oh, the inner child needs a lot of therapy, so let's heal her fast.
Let's heal her by getting these.
But it was just like I mean, Lex like losing her changed my whole life. So I immediately became a yes girl.
Can I actually ask you? Can you tell me a little bit? Where have you been?
Yeah, I have a list. I have a list of the places I want to go, and then the places I've been, because I think it's really important to see it too. This year though, so this was like a big YOLO year for me. I'm a big Beyonce fan, as my intro was told. Last year she released Renaissance. In December she announced the tour. So I'm like, I knew I had to go to the tour. So when Beyonce released the tour dates, I was like looking at all these American dates. I'm like, oh, okay, and then the tickets went on sale and they were impossible to get. Impossible and so expensive. So then I'm like, hold on. Like she released the European tour dates. And I'm like, well, these tour dates kind of work better for me anyway. The tickets are cheaper. I travel. Like I have, like, you don't get buried with your money, people. You got to spend your money, okay? I have points. I have this. I have that. Maybe it makes more sense for me to go away and do this. I like signed up for all the European pre-sales and I was getting them. In America, I was like number like 170,000 for like MetLife, for her show at MetLife. But like I was number like 8,000 for her show in Sweden. So I was like, oh, I'm getting tickets to opening night in Sweden. My tickets were like $120. I was like, wait, I'm going to Sweden. I was like, well, I've been to Paris a few times, but I've never been to Marseille. Got the Marseille tickets. I was like, is this a fucking joke? And I was like, I'm going to sell these tickets, okay? I'm like going to pick one country and just sell the rest. That's what I thought. She was ending in Poland. And I was like, if not now, when? When the fuck would I go to Poland? Yeah. Let me just see. I got the Poland tickets. I had done a few days maybe here and there prior to this abroad by myself. Like maybe I was meeting someone and I had like 48 hours by myself, maybe something like that. And I was like, I'm going to a Beyonce concert, which is, if you've been to one before, I mean, you're a family. You don't know each other when you walk in, but you leave as one. So I had an extra ticket. Nobody wanted to go with me. So I was like, all right, that's it. I'm going to Sweden by myself. But it was incredible. I was there for a week. Girl, I was kayaking the archipelago by myself in like a group of like 3 other people one day. I'm like, Swedish
summer is like,
yeah, and it was in May. It was beautiful. And I didn't know that like Sweden was predominantly forest and all that stuff. So here I am learning all this. I'm doing all those walking tours by myself, like just, walking wherever the fuck I wanted. I'm like looking up like, what is this place known for? I'm like, okay, ABBA Museum. Then I'm like taking myself on day trips. I just wanted to like see as much of it as I could. And then like the best part was like the sugar on top, like the cherry on top was the Beyonce concert.
Could I ask you, would you have gone to Sweden if Beyonce wasn't performing?
Yeah, Sweden was always on my list. Yeah, and then I fucking saw Beyonce front row. Like I stood in line 12 hours in this other country. It was so cool though, because like people traveled all over the world to see her. So I now have friends in Italy. I now have friends in fucking London. I now have friends in Latvia. Mm-hmm. I'm like, bitch, I would have never met these people before.
And now you never know. Maybe you'll go to Latvia next
Correct. Year. And so when I was in Poland, the girl from Latvia met me in Poland. And I'm just like, what? This whole thing, that really clicked.
It's kind of like creating your own community. Travelers specifically are really good at doing that because you go to these different places, you make friends, you connect. And I think when you connect with someone through a travel experience, it's like one day is like 1 year in my life. Like
absolutely. Yeah, like you're always going to be a part of that moment for me, even if we don't see each other ever again, or you know.
It's just this like moment, this beautiful passing moment in time.
For the most part, the people that I was meeting, they were there by themselves. They were like, oh no, I'm actually so happy I met you too. Now, oh, tomorrow actually I was just going to walk around by myself, but I'll just call you instead and meet you here.
Do you think that it's helped you live in the moment a little bit more?
Yeah, totally changed my mindset. I was like, I am not selling the other tickets. I'm going to the other shows. I'll fucking figure it out. I'll find people. I'll whatever. So people had seen that I was in Sweden for Beyonce. And so one of my friends, Juan, who was a traveler at the hospital I was a staff at, he was like, oh my God, love that. Can't wait to see her in Marseille. And I was like, oh, guess what, bitch? I'll be there too. So I hit up Nettie, my friend Lynette. And I've like, every time I've been to Paris, it's been with Lynette. Like, so I'm like, hey girlie, I'm going to France and I think you have to come with me by law.
Did she meet you?
She did. She met me in fucking Marseille. We meet up with Juan and all of his friends. We're all at the concert together. And it was like magical. I was telling them like, oh, well, I have tickets to Poland. I have like an extra ticket to Poland night. And they were all also going to be on like a European adventure until the end of the month too. And I was like, feel free if anybody wants to come and take the ticket, And it just happened that a girl I met, Eva, on this trip in Marseille, all of a sudden, like 6 days later, I get a text and she's like, actually, can I meet you in Poland? And I'm like, fuck yeah, girl, I was going to be in Poland by myself. Come meet me. And now I have a new friend, memories that are going to last a lifetime. And yeah, I was just like, wow, okay, if it wasn't me saying yes to these moments in my life, I would not know these people. I would walk by her in the street. And then like small world, she's from SF.
Yeah, wow.
Now moving back to SF. So I'm like, oh my God, now I got another girly in SF to hang out with.
The world is small.
It is.
It's very small.
It is. It is round. So it keeps going like this, guys. No one's falling off. They come back to you. And I was so proud of myself because there were aspects of that trip that I did by myself. John and I went on to Spain together. Then John left and I went on to Budapest by myself. And that was like the most uncomfortable I've ever been by myself. Like I started off Budapest. Oh my God. I got to Budapest. I like had this Airbnb set up. The instructions were pretty explicit. There's a brown door. You walk through the brown door, you get to this door, and and I was like, okay. I get to a brown door. I'm like walking through it. I see a courtyard as he describes, trying to get into this Airbnb, and like now the pictures aren't matching up. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, bro, I'm here. And he's like, it was 25 minutes of me breaking into some random apartment in Budapest. These women are like watching in the courtyard on the floors above me, just like smoking, talking in Hungarian. I don't know Hungarian, but so he explains to me that I'm breaking into the wrong apartment, and I'm just like, thanks, ladies. And I'm like so thankful no one called like the Hungarian police on me, Yeah. But eventually I get to my place, but I'm just like, okay, even in that moment, like chill the fuck out, sit on a stoop. I did what the Europeans do. I smoked a cigarette and figured out my problem, and I went on.
And moved on with your day.
I was just like, okay, like, all right, Brooke, you're in a bad mood. Like, what do you usually do in New York to get out of bad moods?
What did you do?
I just took myself on a hot girl walk.
Okay.
Around Budapest.
Did it kind of soften your view on it at all?
Yeah.
After taking that moment?
Yeah, because then I was like walking around. Okay, this is what people do. These are the cafes that like regular people go to, and da da da. And I'm just like, okay, what are the things that are upsetting me right now about this moment? What can I do to like make it better? It is only 36 hours, Brooke.
But I think that's a good point to make, because when you're traveling, it's not always going to be what you see on Instagram. It's not always going to be these amazing moments where you're on a high and loving life.
Yes.
There are hard moments that are folded in there. You're just not necessarily broadcasting them.
Totally.
And that's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, awful mood has become you, or you're in this like, fuck, why am I here right now? Yeah. But that's just, it's life. You're not always going to like love exactly where you're at, but it's just part of the journey, and you got to move through it.
Step by step, breath by breath.
Yeah.
Poland was like way more than oh my God. Talk about like, I want to go back.
I've heard amazing things about Poland.
Oh my God.
Warsaw, were you?
I was in Warsaw, yeah. And it's like so regal, and it's so incredible how they've rebuilt it.
No, it has like historic integrity.
Incredible.
They did a great job all throughout Europe.
Oh yeah.
Doing like
1,000%.
rebuilding after World War II. If you could discern one overarching lesson that you've learned through all of these experiences that you've gathered throughout the years, what would that be?
Oh my God. Go with the flow. I think how we were just talking about how you have all these expectations and things to happen. Like, that's not how life happens. So we shouldn't expect vacations to just like happen like that too. Just because it's like a break from our reality. So it's supposed to like not work like reality. Mm-hmm. Like it works very much like reality.
Yeah, it is reality. It's just reality in a different place.
Correct. So even like you go on a beach vacation, bitch, it rains every day sometimes.
It does.
Yeah. And you're like, God damn, but I'm still in another country. Like Nice. Yeah, we're like in Nice and it's like pouring rain, and I'm like, well, will you still take a photo of me in front of this like boat? Like I'm still eating a snail.
Yeah.
It's just raining.
Yeah, it's raining.
That's it. Fine. Just fucking go with it. Like if it wouldn't piss you off where you're from, don't let it piss you off there. I think like you're already like you did the hardest part. You got wherever it is that you were gonna go.
Yeah.
That's honestly I think the hardest part. Now you just have to enjoy yourself.
There's joy to be found everywhere.
Absolutely.
All right. And before we wrap up, I have a few questions for you.
Yeah.
What is number one bucket list destination?
Okay, I was really thinking hard about this. I think it is like the Taj Mahal, like a huge India, like month-long India.
Great. Love that. I agree. That's on my bucket list as well. What about if someone was like, here, Brooke, I have round trip flight voucher tomorrow. Where are you going?
I think it's harder for me than the bucket list question. I think it would either be Greece, and I would not want a return ticket, or it would be like Cabo. Like I love like the Baja part of Mexico. I think that's so gorgeous. But yeah, probably Greece. I'd probably go back to the motherland again.
What's one thing that you will not travel without? Something that is always in your bag.
Medicines, bitch.
What kind of medicine?
Anything. Go to your doctor. Say, I want a broad spectrum antibiotic, one that will take care of UTIs or skin infections or whatever. And if he says you need multiple X for multiple prescriptions of them, I would take ibuprofen, Tylenol, all those things. You can buy them in other countries. That's not the problem. Antibiotics, you might have to be seen by a doctor to get antibiotics. And say you're in like Bali. I don't know how easy it is for you to get Keflex in Bali or Bactrim for your fucking UTI. I don't know. And guess what? You're going to be in bathing suits all day. Like you might get one. I would do all the medicines. I would do Zofran for nausea. I would do Meclizine for dizziness. You just don't know. And you don't know what it's like to be in another country's pharmacy until you're there. And like sometimes they speak English and sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes you can show them a rash and they'll know what to do. And sometimes you don't know how to explain whatever's going on in your body.
Okay.
So it would definitely be medicines and a portable charger. What about you?
My
Can
camera.
I ask you?
Yeah.
Okay.
My camera.
Okay.
I think that's what I always need to bring.
And where would you go tomorrow?
Tomorrow, I would go to Belgium.
Like a winter Belgium
Yes.
trip? Fuck yeah, like a hot Christmas market?
Exactly.
Oh, Cologne, Germany, sign me up.
Yeah, that's where I would go. I'm craving a European Christmas vibe right now.
Oh, Saint Moritz, is that how you say it? In Switzerland? Moritz or France?
Saint Moritz.
Moritz.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that looks like fucking luxury.
Yeah. It looks
Someone
beautiful.
give me caviar bump on a ski mountain.
I know.
I want that.
Gorge. I have like a few different bucket list destinations. I obviously, I have a bucket list.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to decide between the two, but I'd say 1 and 2 would be the pyramids, Giza, and safari in the Serengeti or something like that. Yeah.
Neck and neck with a lion.
Yeah. And then my last question for you.
Okay.
Where to next?
Where to next? I'm going back to SF soon. And then I am going in January. I'm going to go to Paris for a few days and then to Park City, Utah. I don't ski, but I do make a nice hot toddy, and I will have it waiting for my friends at the bottom of the hill. And then April, I'm going to the Maldives and Qatar.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we'll have to talk to you when you get back.
Yeah.
We'll have to
when I have a tan.
reconvene. Well, Brooke, this was so much fun. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time on Out of Town. Thanks.
Obsessed.